Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. In our first story, a couple of pain-in-the-butts tried to complain to our OP because he was making noise at 11 a.m. and keeping them awake. What kind of people? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Entitled Mom screams at me and my boss for doing our jobs. Cast. Me, EM, EK, boss, maid. For context, I do work for a landscaping company that works in Toronto. To be more specific, it's the rich part of Toronto. All rich kids everywhere you look in huge mansions. I only work once a week because I fill in a shift for another dude. The dude I fill in for did a crap job, so I had to fix it. I made it to the house around 10 a.m. I start trimming bushes and doing my thing. I get on the tractor at about 11:30 and cut grass. Almost as soon as I start cutting, an angry middle-aged woman and a teenage girl jump the fence to the property that I'm working on and start walking over towards me. Me. Y'all can't be here. I'm kind of working right now. Go to the front and see the maid if you're supposed to be here. EM. Why are you using that grass cutter this early? Me. It's 11:36. If you aren't up, that's your problem. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to. If that's all you have to say, leave. EK. I'm trying to sleep. It's summer. Me. You can work like the rest of us. It's summer. At this point, I'm PO'd and just want to work. EM. How dare you talk to my daughter like that? You have no care in the world for anyone. Me. I'm just trying to do my job. Maid. What's going on here? Me. They just... EM. He's being rude to us. Me. You're not even allowed to be here, and you disturb me when I'm working? Maid. Entitled kid? Entitled mom? Just go. They both storm off, and I just want to see what it'll be like when I'm called in this week. And our second story. Can we have a pool table? Only if it's donated. Okay, so we're back to my days doing voluntary work. We had a meeting with the chairman of the board of trustees, during which we were asked if we had any ideas or suggestions. A couple were made that actually made sense and were indeed implemented, and we get a typical "anything else" at the end. Can we have a dartboard or a snooker table? I asked jokingly. You know, for when they're quiet. I'll tell you what, the chairman laughed. If a customer donates one, you can have it. We all laughed at the joke, meeting ends, and I forgot about the conversation. That is for about a week or so, when I'm out with my mother and see a half-size pool table complete with cues and balls sitting outside a local charity shop. I don't know what they call these outside the UK. It's a volunteer-run shop that sells donated goods to help fund a local charity. It wasn't exactly competition grade, more something you might buy for kids to play on, but still perfectly serviceable. I suddenly remembered the conversation with the chairman and tell my mom about what had been said, pointing to the table. Well, she says, I'm a customer of charity I was volunteering at. Go find out how much it is. I go to look at the price. It was something like 10 to 15 pounds, certainly under 20 pounds. My mom takes the money out of her purse and hands it to me, saying that it's her donation to the charity for all the hard work we do. Not one to look a gift horse in the mouth, I thank her for the money and quickly buy the table before anyone else can. So next day, I'm back doing my charity work, and I walk in with a massive crap-eating grin on my face. Hey, other volunteers, remember what chairman said about a dartboard or snooker table? Everyone looks at me, confused, as I produce the pool table from around the corner. Everyone breaks out laughing, even more so when I make it clear that it's not a joke. It actually has been donated by a customer, perfectly within keeping with the stipulations put down by the chairman. Our team leader, who was having trouble standing, she was laughing so much, relents and says we can keep it so long as we finish any work that needs doing before we play with it, and we never use it when there's a customer around. Thus began 2 weeks of joy. Work was getting done much faster as everyone wanted a turn at the table. Everyone was happy, and we'd made sure that we kept to the rules set down by the team leader, not wanting to lose our pool privileges. Unfortunately, all good things must end. One day, when I wasn't there, the chairman paid a surprise visit and was shocked to see two of the volunteers enjoying a quick game between customers. All other work had been done, and there was still someone on the desk to answer the phone and greet visitors. I don't know the exact exchange that took place, but the chairman asked what the hell was going on, and the team leader reminded him of what he'd said at the meeting. She also confirmed that the table had been donated by a customer, even digging out the paperwork to prove that my mother had been registered with the charity for almost a year at that point. But the chairman didn't see the funny side of it and insisted that the table be getting rid of. So, start of my next shift, I loaded it into the back of my car. It ended up being donated to a charity fair my mother was helping out at, and someone else got to enjoy it. And team morale plummeted the next day. Why can't people understand that a happy worker is worth much more than an unhappy worker? And our final story. First day on the job, I was asked to run a faulty code. I did, and the business lost a lot of money. I work at a casino. I'm the technician that handles all the surveillance cameras. Originally, I worked in the casino warehouse, but was hired to be a tech after a glowing recommendation from my former boss. I'll preface this with the fact that I had no IT or mechanical experience professionally when hired to this position. I was told many times during the interview and orientation that I didn't need any experience and that I would be trained by our other tech. This story begins on my ride to my first day on the new job. The previous mentioned tech, we'll call him Walter, and I actually lived close together, so we began carpooling. During the ride, Walter, who's really a nice guy, but this story might make him seem like a jerk, began telling me that there were some orders I would be given by our boss that he doesn't feel is part of his job and he refuses to do, and that basically he'll be mad at me if I try doing them for him. I tell him that since I'm so new, I'll have to follow expectations because I don't want to cause waves. This sets Walter off, berating me with all sorts of nonsense like, "How are you going to say you have pride in your job if you do things that aren't your job?" He basically called out my pride. My pride doesn't come from the things I do while I slave for pennies to pay for some rich guy to have a 4th Porsche and a 9th mansion, so whatever, I shrugged it off. Now, when we get to work, our job is to install new cameras in the bar, which is going through complete renovation. In order to do this, we had to integrate these new cameras into our very dated, very disorganized camera network that only Walter knows how to work with. Former techs left the department in disarray. After working with the hub that acts as a landing point for our new inputs, he began getting frustrated, swearing, and throwing his tools. I began to distance myself. I go to the bathroom and come back. He's then very angry and begins accusing me of doing the things my boss tells us to do that apparently isn't our job. Walter goes to our boss's office, we'll call him Todd, and tells him none of this is his job and leaves for the day abruptly. I come to the office a few minutes later. I went on and did other work for a while, and Todd tells me that since he left, it's now my responsibility to integrate the new inputs. I explained to him that the error can only be solved by entering lines of code I know nothing of, and that tech support won't be back until the following Monday. This is a Friday. Todd says, "Well, it's broken now. You couldn't mess it up any further than it is. Go do it." "I don't have time for this. I need to go home." "Make sure it's done by tonight because our executive committee, EC, will be inspecting the bar." I explained that this issue is a network issue and potentially could take down cams that are necessary for state compliance. I told him the only other thing I heard was that the code that tech support had given us kept doing something weird with cams we needed for compliance, and that Walter knew how to bring them back online and I did not. He doesn't give a crap and leaves, but not before telling me just to run the code. By this time, I'm at about 10 hours logged on this shift. My ride home's gone, and I'm starting to get a little PO'd. I decided to comply, with malicious intent. I read for another 2 more hours about how to even look at the settings for this hub. I plug a laptop into it and open up PuTTY. I was able to figure out through trial and error how to enter commands. Before I enter the lines of code, I ask my boss via phone call one more time if this is a good idea. He tells me not to call him at home unless it's an emergency and reiterates his prior command. So I start entering the code, and suddenly I see all of our cameras start dropping off one by one. I start getting calls from the surveillance observers wondering what's going on. I told them I was following the instructions that Todd gave me. They were all very mad and began calling Todd, our directors. And after nobody gave a crap, they called gaming. They issued the command to shut down the casino until the problem's resolved. Eventually, Todd stops whatever he was doing and comes back to work just in time for the EC to show up. Todd scolds me and says that I can be the one to face the EC since it was my mistake. I was more than happy. The EC's all in the conference room along with 2 state gaming regulators and the actual CEO of the casino company. They ask for Todd. Todd sends me. I get into the room and everyone's demanding answers. Where's Todd? Why is this happening? Every minute a casino stays closed can potentially be thousands of dollars in lost revenue. So this is a really serious deal for these suits. The EC unrelentingly grills me, and I have to take a second to clear my head before I respond, or I might just start slapping people. The tension in the room was effing crushing. So I sit down, grab a bottle of water, and explain to them what happened. And that it was my first day and the other tech just peed off someplace and nobody knows where he went. The CEO actually apologized and told me to go ahead and head home and that I wouldn't be blamed for anything. I took the bus home. HR comped the ticket, luckily. The next day, the casino floor still being down, I pass Walter in the hall, who'd just been transferred to another department. I then go into the surveillance room where the observers showed me on a video what had happened once the EC tracked down Todd. Apparently, one of the EC members found him hiding in an elevator service room. I got to watch him walk, shoulders slumped, into that conference room. I got to watch and hear them harshly call him out, his poor decisions and his poor leadership. I got to listen to them tell him how unfair and how poor a decision it was to assign me a task when he himself had the skills to complete it. One of our directors told him that he was no longer needed here. I watched the footage of him pack his crap and have 2 security officers escort him off property. The feels were effing great. I then worked with a flown-in tech specialist who was very helpful and actually showed me quite a bit while we solved the issue together. Later, I found out the casino lost almost $1 million in revenue over the evening between fines and the fact that this was a high roller event weekend gone wrong. I still love thinking about it 5 years later. Great idea, Todd. Send the guy who has no loyalty to you, still on his first day, to deal with your problem? Did he honestly expect you to take all the blame for this? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.